Municipal Corporation Fraud, Genocide and Slavery. By Anna von Reitz. Information provided to H.E. Cardinal Mamberti and the Vatican Chancery Court in regard to our claims, March 5, 2005, January 19, 2023, in Seek. Municipal Corporation Fraud, Genocide and Slavery. Both the foreign federal subcontractors housed in the District of Columbia are municipal corporations. One is managed by the British Crown and one is managed by the city government. As demonstrated by the information already provided, both of these municipal corporation subcontractors have been criminally mismanaged, both have been immune to correction, both have repeated various historical fraud schemes, such as a variation on the Bottomry Bonds Scheme, which demonstrates knowing premeditation, both have promoted preparatory legislation in support of these unlawful and immoral activities, both have conspired against their actual employers, the American people, both have trespassed against the public peace to promote illegal mercenary conflicts as wars, both have misrepresented their employers as members of their own citizenry, both have conspired to evade their obligations under the constitutions that created them and which allow them to exist, both have violated the provisions of the Residence Act and underlying treaties, and both have acted in gross breach of trust and violation of their service contracts and have acted in bad faith. We wish for these thoroughly criminal municipal corporations to be defunded and blocked from having any more access to our credit, and for all public trusts and bank trusts and accounts containing our assets to be dissolved in our favor and made available to us. We wish for a prompt and safe transition of the assets and essential personnel to the control of our actual government, and for the liquidation of all non-essential agencies in our favor and for our benefit. We wish for the immediate liquidation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and its municipal clone, the FBI, INC, which are being misinformed and misdirected to harm their actual employers. We wish for the immediate liquidation of the so-called Department of Justice and its counterpart known as the DOJ, INC, another incorporated municipal corporation, put in place as a subcontractor of the municipal subcontractors housed in the District of Columbia. This department was part of the fraud carried out by the Scottish commercial corporation DBA, the United States of America, Inc., and it does not serve our public interest. It served the interest of the Scottish interloper as an in-house legal services contractor paid for at public expense, and is no longer needed. We wish for our national government asset and credit accounts to be unblocked, and for our individual credit and physical asset accounts to be unblocked, and for our credit and assets to be generally unavailable, except specifically, for expenses related directly to defense of our borders and security of our people at home in their nation states. We wish for the immediate liquidation of both political party corporations, the DNC and RNC and their territorial counterparts, which are running private corporation shareholder elections as a criminal subterfuge to induce people to register as voters instead of taking action as electors. Their sideshows have also served to hide the lack of public office elections, offices that are being usurped or left vacant, a criminal obfuscation serving to perpetuate the illegal, unlawful, and immoral occupation of our country. We wish for those municipal corporations that remain in operation for the purpose of defending our people and other physical and material assets, have a clear understanding of who they work for and know the legal and lawful and moral limits of their jobs. As we have seen, the unchecked criminality of these colluding municipal corporations has led from one fraud scheme to another. It should not surprise anyone that this criminality has recently resulted in the worst fraud scheme to date. A plan to reap profit from genocide by cashing in life force value annuities, and leaving life insurance policies based on fraudulent ownership interests in place, backed by a plan to claim survivors of the genocide as genetically modified organisms, literally owned by the patent holders of the scraps of genetically engineered mRNA and lipid polymer delivery agents secretly injected into the victims. This grotesque plan, even openly called the final solution by Bill Gates and affiliated Nazi goons at NATO, Inc., has been many years in the making and has involved collaboration of both municipal corporations housed in the District of Columbia and their franchises and banks. The purloined interest in our life force value, and the insurance fraud profits arising from false ownership claims were collected by Prince Philip from the Governor of Ottawa in April of 2017, and amounted to $950 trillion worth of profit resulting from the death of all the British territorial legal fiction franchise persons created in the years 1860 to 2014. This transfer aided and abetted the pre-bankruptcy asset stripping of the municipal corporation assets being overseen by the Governor of Ottawa, with Ottawa functioning as another so-called federal enclave. The life insurance policies taken out on every American and Canadian under the false ownership pretense provided by the unlawful conversion scheme and the proliferation of municipal franchises named after Americans and Canadians, were left in place to be harvested later. As the victims of the anticipated genocide actually died, the coffers of the criminals would be resupplied with the money coming off the undisclosed life insurance policies the same criminals have put in place using the same fraud-based ownership interest claims. These maneuvers enabled the perpetrators to hide and shield their profits as private assets. Note that Prince Philip retired from public life 3 days after the transfer, and still keep the insurance fraud against the living people being used as public assets going. Obviously, the old fraud schemes were also nearing the end of their life expectancy as public records and business records were being actively researched and discovered by our national government. The perpetrators needed something new, some new basis to assert a public ownership interest in their victims, so they hit upon the idea of secretly polluting the natural genome of mankind and overriding God's claim as the creator of our individual DNA, using a scrap of genetically engineered mRNA that would be inserted without the victim's knowledge and which would result in a 100-year claim for the municipal corporation patent holders to literally own the products as genetically modified organisms. Those who died as a result of the injections would be profitable as life insurance claims, those who didn't die would be valuable as GMO slaves, and those who were merely maimed by the injections would provide profit for the medical industry municipal corporation franchises for decades to come. The true value of individual human lives was utterly discounted in these profane calculations. The criminal nature of these profit-driven municipal corporations and the unlawful nature of their activities is fully exposed. The perpetrators put in place pre-existing legislation to expedite their forward planning. In 1986, the Territorial Congress held the vaccine manufacturers harmless from any liability resulting from their vaccine products. This was done so that the pharmaceutical companies would face no accountability for producing vaccines no matter what those vaccines might contain. As we have seen, Big Pharma eventually produced a chemical mishmash of poisons, parasite eggs, self-assembling nanotechnology, and a genetically engineered scrap of harmful mRNA, and marketed it as a vaccine to prevent a never-proven-to-exist infectious disease which the same perpetrators named COVID-19. These gross lies told to the general public and self-protective legislative measures speak for themselves, especially against the backdrop of their earlier abuses of their American employers. It also explains why the only remedy offered for this gross breach of trust and service contract is buried in the Consumer Protection Act and administered by the FCC, Inc. The fraud was topped off when both Territorial Corporation President Trump and Municipal President Joe Biden bought billions of dollars worth of these vaccines and imposed them on their actual employees and the general public under color of law, using executive orders and mandates, etc. And all this self-spending and war profiteering was charged off against us as a public expense, so that the victims were once again forced to pay for their own injury and demise. We have seen enough of these purported public servants and their foreign political parties to last lifetimes, and we wish to see them no more. We wish for these municipal corporations to be forfeit or liquidated as the security concerns for the living people best dictate, surrendered to our lawful national government, and for all aspects of the deliberate genocide and insurance and ownership interest fraud schemes to be dismantled and done away with forevermore. Issued by Anna Maria Riesinger, Fiduciary. The United States of America in care of Box 520994 Big Lake, Alaska 99652. April 14, 2023.
Links to Anna's articles and resources can be found in the video description box. Thank you for subscribing, liking and sharing.